Yes.
Well, we haven't done 6 in a long time. That's for feasts.
You get it on the computer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Page 7.
That was that thing coming on there. Keying up the,
It's not playing.
can we get that louder?
Oh, of course I'm about to connect
I turned it on, but.
it. Sorry, it's connecting. I always forget to do something. Okay.
We're gonna have to put a checklist up.
Here we go. Oh,
There we go.
Go for it.
There we go.
That sounded good.
Yeah.
I'm sitting.
Hey. Page 14. 14. Father Yahweh, thank you for allowing us to gather together on your Sabbath day. Father, thank you for everything you've given us throughout the past week. Thank you for your protection. Father, we ask that you visit with us and open up our minds and our eyes and our understanding. And Father, we need you to bestow upon us strength to follow in your footsteps. We give thanks and ask all of this in Yeshua's name. Baruch haba Hashem Yahweh. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh.
See announcements here for today. Thankfully, Rick was watching out after me. He says new moon is going to be 3rd of September, somewhere around 7 p.m. gathering. It's at 7 p.m. He says gathering will be about 6:40 p.m. Yom Teruah is 4th of October. Celebration of life for Buddy Gandy is 3 to 5 at the Fish House tomorrow. Ha! Thank you, Rick. Also, if you have prayers and praises, we write those down on the little yellow Post-it notes, stick them on the cork board right there, and Deborah will pick them up and get them posted out to everybody in the group email. If you're not on the emailing list, see Deborah or myself, and we'll get you put on there. The idea for that is that we can go through and we can pray all week long for the specific requests and people that are in there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, yeah, also, the recent changes we've made to the Sabbath with food and everything. So from now on going forward, if we want to have anything to eat with our fellowship after service, we all need to bring something that's already prepared. This way, the ladies no longer have to be working on the Sabbath, and they can go to study the scriptures and celebrate the services with us. And we can still bring things that, crock pot or finger food that doesn't need to be heated back up or something like that. If everybody brings something that needs to be reheated, that's still going to leave folks with having to run everything through the stove. So just keep that in mind. I know that this way we can focus more on Yahweh and our study of his word and worship him on the Sabbath like we're supposed to be doing. Give everybody a chance, and it's a true Sabbath for those folks. They get to spend time with the Yahweh fellowship on his day. And I see, is anything else that we have to do? Oh yeah, Rick would want me to remind you that if you want to read the Torah, just sign up for a week to read it, and you can come up and read it. I don't think there's anything else. Am I missing anything else?
There is one thing I want to mention. We won't be doing any, special music every Sabbath because my voice has got some problems. And but if anybody would like to do something, just let us know and we will put you in. And of course, if you would like us to play along with you, let us know in enough time that we can practice it at least once. Thank you.
So we're going to have some, I think Rick said we're going to start trying to use the screens a little bit more to help us with the music here. We're going to have to go out into the world and find us some believers or new believers or people who want to convert and follow Yahweh that know how to play instruments, got pretty voices, bonk them over the head and drag them in. We'll just Shanghai them. That type of recruiting is not allowed around here? No, okay, dang, it's not the way it works. All right. Caitlin? Break's going to keep me straight.
I was about to say your brain's showing you.
Good afternoon. We are beginning in Deuteronomy 7:12 through 11:25. And it shall come to pass, because you listen to these ordinances and keep and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim will keep with you the covenant and the mercy which he swore to your fathers. And he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your body and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the young of your flock, in the land which he swore to your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all peoples. There shall not be male or female barren among you or among your cattle. And Yahweh will take away from you all sickness, and none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which you know, will he put upon you, but will lay them on all them that hate you. And you shall consume all the peoples that Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver to you. Your eye shall not pity them, neither shall you serve their Elohim, for that will be a snare to you. If you shall say in your heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them. You shall well remember what Yahweh your Elohim did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt, the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs, and the wonders, and the mighty hand, and the outstretched arm, by which Yahweh your Elohim brought you out. So shall Yahweh your Elohim do to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Yahweh your Elohim will send the hornet among them, until they that are left and hide themselves perish from before you. You shall not be terrified of them, for Yahweh your Elohim is among you, an El, great and terrible. And Yahweh your Elohim will cast out those nations before you little by little. You may not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon you. But Yahweh your Elohim will deliver them before you, and will destroy them with a great destruction until they are consumed. And he will deliver their kings into your hand, and you shall make their name to perish from under heaven. No man shall be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. The carved images of their Elohim you shall burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, or take it to yourself, lest you be snared in it. For it is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall not bring an abomination into your house and become a cursed thing like it. You shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Every commandment which I command you this day shall you observe to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim had led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, to prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and suffered you to hunger, and fed you with manna, which you knew not, neither did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread only, but by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live. Your raiment did not wear out on you, neither did your foot swell these 40 years. And ye shall consider in your heart that as a man corrects his son, so Yahweh your Elohim corrects you. And ye shall keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways, and to fear him. For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs, flowing forth in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, land in which you shall eat bread without scarceness, you shall not lack anything in it. A land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you may dig copper. And you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless Yahweh your Elohim for the good land which he has given you. Beware, lest you forget Yahweh your Elohim, and not keeping his commandments and his ordinances, and his statutes which I command you this day, lest, when you have eaten and are full, and have built good houses and dwelt in it, and when your herds and your fields multiply, and your silver and your gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart will be lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which were fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirsty ground in which was no water, who brought forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you, and that he might prove you, to do you good at your latter end. And lest you say in your heart, My power and the might of my hand has acquired this wealth. But you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is he that gives you the power to acquire wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he swore to your fathers, as at this day. And it shall be, if you shall forget Yahweh your Elohim, and walk after other Elohim, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day, that you shall surely perish. As the nations that Yahweh makes to perish before you, so shall you perish, because you would not listen to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. Hear, O Israel, you are to pass over the Jordan this day, to go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourself, cities great and fortified up to heaven, a people great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom you know, and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? Know therefore this day that Yahweh your Elohim goes over before you as a devouring fire. He will destroy them, and he will bring them down before you. So shall you drive them out, and make them to perish quickly, as Yahweh has spoken that to you. Speak not you in your heart, after that Yahweh your Elohim has thrust them out from before you, saying, for my righteousness Yahweh has brought me in to possess this land. Whereas for the wickedness of these nations, Yahweh drives them out from before you. Not for your righteousness, or for the uprightness of your heart, did you go in to possess their land. But for the wickedness of these nations, Yahweh your Elohim drives them out from before you, and that he may establish the word which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob. Know therefore that Yahweh your Elohim gives you not this good land to possess it for your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, forget you not, how you provoked Yahweh your Elohim to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that you went forth out of the land of Egypt until you came to this place. You have been rebellious against Yahweh. Also in Horeb you provoked Yahweh to wrath, and Yahweh was angry with you to destroy you. When I had gone up into the mount to receive the tablets of stone, even the tables of the covenant which Yahweh made with you, then I remained in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water. And Yahweh delivered to me the 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim, and on them was written according to all the words which Yahweh spoke with you in the mount, out of the middle of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass, at the end of 40 days and 40 nights, that Yahweh gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And Yahweh said to me, arise, go down quickly from here, for your people that you have brought forth out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made for themselves a molten image. Furthermore, Yahweh spoke to me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Let them alone, that I may destroy them, and blot out their name from under heaven. And I will make of you a nation mightier and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount was burning with fire, and the 2 tables of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, you had sinned against Yahweh your Elohim. You had made for yourselves a molten calf. You had turned aside quickly out of the way which Yahweh had commanded you. And I took hold of the 2 tables, and cast them out of my 2 hands, and broke them before your eyes. And I fell down before Yahweh, as at the first, 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water, because of all your sin which you sinned, and doing that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure with which Yahweh was angry against you to destroy you. But Yahweh listened to me that time also. And Yahweh was very angry with Aaron to destroy him. And I prayed for Aaron also at the same time. And I took your sin, the calf which you had made, and burnt it with fire, and stamped it, grinding it very small until it was as fine as dust. And I cast the dust of it into the brook that descended out of the mount. And at Taberah, and at Massa, and at Kibrot Hatava, you provoked Yahweh to wrath. And when Yahweh sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, Go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the commandment of Yahweh your Elohim, and you believed him not, nor listened to his voice. You have been rebellious against Yahweh from the day that I knew you. So I fell down before Yahweh the 40 days and 40 nights that I fell down, because Yahweh had said he would destroy you. And I prayed to Yahweh and said, O sovereign Yahweh, destroy not your people and your inheritance, that you have redeemed through your greatness, that you have brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Do not look on the stubbornness of this people, to their wickedness or to their sin, lest the land from where you brought us out say, because Yahweh was not able to bring them into the land which he promised to them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. Yet they are your people and your inheritance, which you brought out by your great power and by your outstretched arm. At that time Yahweh said to me, Hew 2 tables of stone like the first, and come up to me in the mount, and make an ark of wood. And I will write on the tables the words that were on the first tables which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, and hewed 2 tables of stone like the first, and went up in the mount, having the 2 tables in my hand. And he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which Yahweh spoke to you in the mount out of the middle of the fire in the day of the assembly. And Yahweh gave them to me. And I turned and came down from the mount, and put the tables in the ark which I had made. And there they are as Yahweh commanded me. And the children of Israel journeyed from Berot Bnei Yakan to Mosera. There Aaron died, and there he was buried, and Eleazar his son ministered in the priest's office in his place. From there they journeyed to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Yotbata, a land of brooks of water. At that time Yahweh set apart the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand before Yahweh to minister to him, and to bless in his name to this day. Therefore Levi has no portion or inheritance with his brethren. Yahweh is his inheritance, as Yahweh your Elohim spoke to him. And I stayed in the mount, as at the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And Yahweh listened to me that time also. Yahweh would not destroy you. And Yahweh said to me, Arise, take your journey before the people, and they shall go in and possess the land, which I swore to their fathers to give unto them. And now, Israel, what does Yahweh your Elohim require of you, but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, to keep the commandments of Yahweh and his statutes, which I command you this day for your good. Behold, to Yahweh your Elohim belongs heaven and the heaven of heavens, the earth with all that is in it. Yet Yahweh had a delight in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all peoples as at this day. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked. For Yahweh your Elohim, he is El of Elohim and sovereign of rulers, the great El, the mighty and the terrible, who regards not persons nor takes reward. He executes justice for the fatherless and widow, and loves the sojourner, in giving him food and raiment. Therefore love the sojourner, for you are sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall fear Yahweh your Elohim, him you shall serve, and to him you shall hold fast, and by his name shall you swear. He is your praise, and he is your Elohim, that has done for you these great and terrible things, which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons, and now Yahweh your Elohim has made you as the stars of heaven for multitude. Therefore ye shall love Yahweh your Elohim, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his ordinances, and his commandments always. And know you this day, for I speak not with your children that have not known, and that have not seen the correction of Yahweh your Elohim, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works which he did in the midst of Egypt, to Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and to all his land, and what he did to the army of Egypt, to their horses and to their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overwhelm them as they pursued after you, and how Yahweh has destroyed them to this day, and what he did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and every living thing that followed them, in the middle of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great work of Yahweh which he did. Therefore shall you keep every command which I command you this day, that you may be strong, and go in and possess the land which you go over to possess, and that you may prolong your days in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give to them and to their seed, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you go in to possess is not as the land of Egypt, from where you came out, where you sowed your seed and watered it with your foot, as a garden of herbs. But the land where you go over to possess it, it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinks water of the rain of heaven, a land which Yahweh your Elohim cares for. The eyes of Yahweh your Elohim are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even to the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall listen diligently to my commandments, which I command you this day, to love Yahweh your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give the rain of your land in its season, the earlier rain and the later rain, that ye may gather in your grain, and your new wine, and your oil. And I will give grass in your fields for your cattle, and ye shall eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart becomes deceived, and you turn aside, and serve other Elohim and worship them. And the anger of Yahweh is kindled against you, and he shuts up the heavens, so that there shall be no rain, and the land shall not yield its fruit, and you perish quickly from off the good land which Yahweh gives you. Therefore shall you retain these my words in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children, in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens above the earth. For if you shall diligently keep every commandment which I command you, to do it, to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to hold fast to him, then Yahweh will drive out all these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourselves. Every place on which the sole of your foot shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even to the western sea shall be your border. There shall no man be able to stand before you. Yahweh your Elohim shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that you shall tread upon, as he has spoken to you. Next, we're in Isaiah 49:14 through 51:3. But Zion said, Yahweh has forsaken me, and Yahweh has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yes, these may forget, yet will not I forget you, Behold, I have carved you upon the palms of my hands. Your walls are continually before me. Your children make haste. Your destroyers and they that made you waste shall go forth from you. Lift up your eyes all around, and behold, all these gather themselves together and come to you. As I live, says Yahweh, you shall surely clothe yourself with them all as with an ornament, and gird yourself with them like a bride. For as for your waste and your desolate places, and your land that has been destroyed, surely now shall you be too narrow for the inhabitants, and they that swallowed you up shall be far away. The children of whom you were robbed shall yet say in your ears, the place is too narrow for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. Then shall you say in your heart, who has begotten me these, seeing I have been robbed of my children, and am solitary, in exile, and wandering to and fro? And who has brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These, where were they? In this manner says the sovereign Yahweh, behold, I will lift up my hand to the nations, and set up my ensign to the peoples. And they shall bring your sons in their bosom, and your daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be your nursing fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers. They shall bow down to you with their faces to the earth, and lick the dust of your feet. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, and they that wait for me shall not be put to shame. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captives be delivered? But thus says Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contends with you, and I will save your children. And I will feed them that oppress you with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood, as with sweet wine. And all flesh shall know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. In this manner, says Yahweh, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, with which I have put her away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities were you sold, and for your transgressions was your mother put away. Why, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all that it cannot redeem? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, at my rebuke I dry up the sea. I make the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stink because there is no water, and die for thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness, and I make sackcloth their covering. The sovereign Yahweh has given me the tongue of them that are taught, that I may know how to sustain with words him that is weary. He awakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ear to hear as they that are taught. The sovereign Yahweh has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, neither turned away backward. I gave my back to the strikers, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and spitting. For the sovereign Yahweh will help me. Therefore have I not been confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be put to shame. He is near who justifies me. Who will contend with me? Let us stand up together. Who is my adversary? Let him come near to me. Behold, the sovereign Yahweh will help me. Who is he that shall condemn me? Behold, they shall all wear out as a garment. The moth shall eat them up. Who is among you that fears Yahweh, that obeys the voice of his servant? He that walks in darkness and has no light, let him trust in the name of Yahweh and rely upon his Elohim. Behold, all you that kindle a fire, that gird yourselves about with firebrands, walk in the flame of your fire and among the brands that you have kindled. This shall you have of my hand. You shall lie down in sorrow. Listen to me, you that follow after righteousness, you that seek Yahweh. Look to the rock from where you were hewn, and to the hole of the pit from where you were dug. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarai that bore you. For when he was but one, I called him, and I blessed him and made him many. For Yahweh has comforted Zion. He has comforted all her waste places, and has made her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yahweh. Joy and gladness shall be found in it, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Last, we are in Hebrews 11, 8 through 13. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed to go out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he went. By faith, he became a sojourner in the land of promise, as in a land not his own, dwelling in tents with Yitzhak and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for the city which has the foundations, whose builder and maker is Yahweh. By faith, even Sarai herself received power to conceive seed when she was past age, since she counted him faithful who had promised. Therefore there also sprang of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of heaven in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them and greeted them from far off, and having confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Okay. That concludes the readings for today.
Looking? Okay. And all right. So I was born and raised in Wisconsin, and then growing up, to me, it was fascinating what was going on. You hear about stories about the mob and Al Capone, and in fact, my mother had an uncle that used to run a truck for delivering the illegal booze at the time. And in case you don't know, Chicago is right on the border, the northern border of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee is like Panama City Beach, and over there across the bridge in Panama City. That's how close they were. Put it like sister cities. And at the time, I don't know about now, but at the time, Illinois had the death penalty for murder, and what the mobsters would do is cross the Wisconsin border, because Wisconsin had life imprisonment. So if they did get caught, it happened in Wisconsin, so they won't be put to death. So back in 1929, Chicago had a problem. In fact, the tentacles of that problem infested much of the nation around Chicago. The problem had a name, and his name was Al Capone. Capone was a criminal, wicked man who literally ran the city of Chicago. He owned most of the politicians and policemen, and those he couldn't buy, he threatened or had killed. Capone had his mob running prostitution rings throughout the city and sold bootleg liquor worth millions. Then one day, a young treasury agent and 11 of his handpicked men decided it was time to declare war on Capone. Years ago, I did a sermon that there's signs all over. We drive on the right hand. England drives on the left hand when you see the crossing of the hands. In case you didn't know, there's only 12 people that walked on the moon. There was always one circling. So you got the 12 tribes, perhaps. Here we have 12 people going to take on this Al Capone. And if you remember, the name of that young 26-year-old treasury agent was Elliot Ness. Ness and his team ran continuous raids on Capone's operation and cost their mobster millions in lost revenue. Now, as you can imagine, Capone was not happy and attempted numerous assassination attempts on Ness and succeeded in killing one of Ness's closest friends. But before Al Capone took out a contract on the treasury agent, he decided a softer approach. At the time, Ness was making $2,800 a year. This was back in 29. An envelope containing $2,000 inside, the messenger made it clear that this would be his weekly salary if he would just lay off Capone. Ness put the money back in the envelope and sent it and the messenger back to Capone. Then he called a press conference. Ness told the assembled newspaper men all about Capone's attempted bribe and made it clear how much contempt he had for the man who had offered it. The next day, the headlines read, "Ness and his men are untouchable." And so began the legend of Elliot Ness and his untouchables. Now, in a day of corrupt officials and policemen who were on the take, Ness and his untouchables became heroes. They were righteous men who could not be bought. They were upright men of integrity who fought evil and corruption. They were men of legend. In Proverbs 11, verse 1, a false balance is an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. When pride comes, then comes shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but the transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. When the wicked man dies, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perishes. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked comes in his stead. A hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. By the blessings of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. He that is void of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his peace. A talebearer reveals secrets, but he that is of a faithful spirit conceals the matter. Where no counsel is, the people fail, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hates suretyship is sure. A gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches. The merciful man does good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubles his own flesh. The wicked works a deceitful work, but to him that sows righteousness shall be a sure reward. As righteousness tends to life, so he that pursues evil pursues it to his own death. They that are of a forward heart are abomination to Yahweh, but such as are the upright in their way are his delight. Though hand in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is that scatters and yet increases. There is that withholds more than is meet, but it tends to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that waters shall be watered also himself. He that withholds corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that sells it. He that diligently seeks good procures favor, but he that seeks mischief, it shall come unto him. He that trusts in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. He that troubles his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. In Proverbs 11, Yahweh says he is calling for his people to be men and women of legend. He is calling us to be people known for our integrity, people who can't be bought, people who stand for righteousness in a land that is filled with evil and corruption. Micah 6 verse 8, he has showed thee, O man, what is good. And what does Yahweh require of you? But to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy Elohim. So what Yahweh says he expects from us is righteousness, mercy, and a humble spirit. He calls us to be legends in our world. And so here in Proverbs 11, Yahweh tells us what a righteous person looks like. As Yahweh often did in the book of Proverbs, Yahweh draws a contrast between the righteous and the wicked. In verse 3 of Proverbs 11, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Verse 5, the righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. Verse 6, the righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. In verse 8, the righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked comes in his stead. In verse 9, the hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbors, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. In verse 10, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. In verse 11, by the blessings of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. Did you see the pattern here? Yahweh is saying, these people are righteous, these aren't. These folks have integrity, these folks don't. Yahweh loves the good guys, and he despises the other. The upright he protects and honors, but the wicked will be trapped and destroyed. Yahweh is making a comparison, and he's telling us, make a choice. Decide what kind of person you are going to be. A while back, there was a nationwide survey asking about the views of unrighteousness. Now, the survey organization didn't put it that way, but what they did was ask people to evaluate what they thought about 8 specific activities: pornography, profanity in public, gambling, gossiping, engaging in sexual intercourse with someone who is not married, seeking revenge against someone, getting drunk, and lying. they found was folks who believe the Bible were the group most likely to follow and embrace morality, while atheists and agnostics were more likely to reject it. Liberals, compared to those who described themselves as conservatives and were often more religious, and were 5 times more likely to participate in unmarried sex, and more than 3 times as likely to view pornography, and more than twice as likely to lie and to get drunk, seek revenge, and gossip. And people associated with faiths other than Christianity were twice as likely as believers to engage in these behaviors. What that said to me was this: those who respected the Elohim of the Bible were more likely to embrace righteousness than those who didn't. To paraphrase a great writer, Dostoevsky, once you remove the God of scriptures from your life, everything is permissible. Those who reject Yahweh's righteousness do so because it interferes with what they want to do in their lives. It's kind of like the story I once read about a man went to see a psychiatrist. He complained, "I've been doing some bad things, doc, and my conscience is troubling me." The doctor asked, "And you want something that will strengthen your willpower?" The man replied, "Well, no, I was thinking of something that would weaken my conscience. Drunkenness would help." Many people don't want Yahweh's righteousness. They want something that will make them feel better about their own unrighteousness. But Yahweh says that's not going to happen. Yahweh says, "I don't care what your excuse is, wrong is wrong." There was a deacon who was committing adultery, and they just let it go. The guy was wealthy, related to the leadership, and he was a likable guy. And when a new preacher refused to go along with their moral apathy, they were appalled and ultimately asked him to leave. In fact, one man even asked, "If you were a preacher in San Francisco, you wouldn't preach against homosexuality, would you?" And, "Well, yeah, that's where many of them live. It doesn't matter what sin we're talking about. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone else says it's okay." In Exodus 23, verse 2, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment." Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. Wrong is wrong, even if you don't get caught. In Proverbs 15, verse 3, "The eyes of Yahweh are in every place, beholding the evil and the good." You can't possibly do anything that Yahweh doesn't know about. Wrong is wrong, even if it doesn't bother your conscience. The conscience can be trained to accept wrongdoing. You can build up a callus over your heart. Ephesians 4, verse 18 tells us, "Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Yahweh through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart." Wrong is wrong. And Yahweh does not accept excuses. Yahweh calls for no. He demands righteousness from his people. In Proverbs 3:33, "The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesses the habitation of the just." You would be brought down by your own wickedness. In Proverbs 11:5, "The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness." Then in verse 6, "You'll be trapped by your evil desires. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. And when you die, people will rejoice." In verse 10, "When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, there is shouting." But if you choose righteousness, that's a whole different ballgame. Yahweh will bless you. Yahweh will hear your prayers. In Proverbs 15:29, Yahweh is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. You'll sing and you'll be glad. You'll be happy, a happy person. Proverbs 29:6. In the transgressions of the evil man there is a snare, but the righteous does sing and rejoice. You won't go hungry. In Proverbs 10:3, Yahweh will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casts away the substance of the wicked. You might get knocked down 7 times, but each time you get back up again. In Proverbs 24:16, for the just man falls 7 times and rises up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. So Yahweh calls his people to righteousness. But there's a fly in the ointment. There's a problem we run into when we strive to be righteous. Romans 3:10 says, there is no one righteous, not even one. Job 9:2 agrees. How can a mortal be righteous before Yahweh? The fly in the ointment is no one is righteous before Yahweh. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of Elohim. So let me see if I got this right. Yahweh wants me to be righteous. I want to be righteous, but I can't be righteous because no one is ever righteous. So if I can't be righteous, why would Yahweh demand it of me? Why? Because Yahweh sets the bar high. He says that this is what we are aiming for. He's not saying to you, all right, going to reach it, but it's your objective. You're going to touch the bar now and again, but there's no way you will constantly be able to attain that goal in your life. Someone put it this way: before I came to Messiah, I practiced sin and committed acts of righteousness. In other words, before he became a believer, he lived for himself. Yahweh's opinion didn't matter to him. If he wanted to do it, he did it. Sin was a way of life for him. But he saw himself as being a nice guy, and so he would occasionally do nice things because that was what most people do. So this person said, before I came to Messiah, I practiced sin and committed acts of righteousness. Then he said, now I practice righteousness and commit acts of sin. In other words, now that he belongs to Yeshua, he lives to please him, but he's realistic enough to realize that he still messes up. He falls short. He sins. But that is no longer the goal of his life. Now, as I was pondering this issue of our imperfect righteousness, I was trying to think of some way to illustrate this truth. Then I came upon this thought. How many of you have ever watched a high school baseball game? Let's say we take them to Milwaukee and have them face off against the Milwaukee Brewers. How do you think they would do? They'd probably lose because they're high schoolers. They can't throw a ball as hard and as fast as a big league pitcher. They can't run as fast as the professionals can. They can't hit a baseball as far as the pros do. They don't have the same skills in the infield or in outfield. They don't belong on the same field with the Brewers. So if they wouldn't stand a chance of beating the Milwaukee Brewers, why should they ever bother to play baseball? They're not as good as those professionals, big leaguers, so why even play the game? Of course, that's not how people think, especially in their high school coaches. Their coaches don't care if their players aren't as good as the professionals. All they want from their boys is the best each of them can give. And if those young players don't give their best, they'll be doing laps. The Bible is telling us we are not in the same league with Yahweh. You and I will never be as righteous as Yahweh. As Job says, how can a mortal be righteous before Elohim? We're not on the same playing field as Yahweh is. We don't have bragging rights to say we've been righteous enough to deserve to be on his team. That's why in Ephesians 2 tells us in verse 3, among whom also we all had our conversations in time past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. But Yahweh, who is rich in mercy, for his great love, wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sin, has quickened us together with Messiah. By grace you are saved. Not by works, lest any man should boast. So, not righteous enough to be saved, but if that's true, how could I possibly make it into Yahweh's kingdom? In 2 Corinthians 5:21, for he has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him. Yahweh made him who had no sin, Yeshua, to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of Yahweh. You see, when I'm clothed with Yeshua, his righteousness compensates for what I lack. One man explained it this way: if all the Christians had is $5 and God wants 10, God supplies the other 5 for him. If the Christian had 7, God supplies the remaining 3. God makes up the difference for what I lack in righteousness. It's kind of like this. Let's say a high school player gets a chance to play for the Brewers. There's 2 outs. The bases are loaded, and our young man is up to bat. On the mound is one of the best professional pitchers in the league, and our boy doesn't stand a chance, and he knows it. Suddenly, the coach calls timeout. He pulls our boy aside and puts in a pinch hitter in his place, a fabled home run hitter. The pitcher goes into the windup, the ball streaks towards the plate, the batter swings, and is out of there. The ball flies high and true and goes off right field fence for a grand slam home run. The coach says to your boy, now you run around the bases. Just make sure you touch all the bases. That's all you have to do. Philippians 9 says, I don't have a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which is through faith in Messiah. The righteousness that comes from Yahweh is by faith. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Messiah, that righteousness which is of Elohim by faith. And 2 Corinthians 5:1 puts it, for he has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him. So how do I get into Yeshua so I lay hold of his righteousness? In Galatians 3:26, for you are all the children of Yahweh by faith in Messiah Yeshua. Verse 27, for as many of you as have been baptized into Messiah have put on Messiah. You see, when you and I believe that Yeshua is the Son of Yahweh and we are baptized into Messiah, we suited up for his team. When that happened, Yahweh called us to live lives dedicated to righteousness. His way of life found in the Bible. But in the righteous life we strive for, we need to realize that we will not get into heaven by our righteousness, but by his. Yahweh bless. And page 9.
Okay. Page 3.
What?
Page 3.
See? Oh, okay. Page 3. Yes, well, I give it all to the table. Say yes, around. Mercy and surrender, oh, what a delight. I'm the blind man to forget inside. Come, come, bring the water. Come, bring the water that flows from the rock. Come and bring this living water. Bring the now. Come drink the water. Come drink the water that flows from the rock. Come and drink this living water. Can you?
Sorry, was that too soon?
You're good.
God bless the
Took a ring.
Bless the room.
I'm gonna make it.
Take your time.
Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for your love and mercy and kindness to your people. We're thankful for this day that you've given us to worship you in spirit and in truth. We thank you for the message that we hear, and we ask you to pour out your spirit upon each one here today. Fill them with your spirit and guide, lead, and direct them to walk in the path that you would have them to walk. All this we ask in Yeshua's name. We've asked a blessing on the food that we're about to receive for the nourishment of our bodies, that it would strengthen us for your service. We ask it. We thank you for your blessings for this day. Yahweh bless. Hallelujah. In my way, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh.